If you've been on the internet lately, then you may have seen various paragraphs, memes, and other posts, including the phrase oalgo. At first glance, I thought this was some kind of funny phrase referencing the algorithm that supposedly guides its respective social media platforms, mimicking praising or praying to the algorithm for lots of likes and attention. Oalgo, please let this meme go viral. But then I noticed that all the content circulating with the phrase oalgo had something to do with someone making a joke or commentary about Mexicans or another type of Hispanic culture. And usually, this content was created by someone outside of the Hispanic culture. After realizing what I was reading, I immediately stopped in my tracks. Why? What does oalgo mean? It means that racists are evolving, and maybe in a good way. Hear me out. You see, oalgo in Spanish means or something. You know, like when you're telling a confusing story or something. O is literally the Spanish word for or, and the alg cluster signifies something undefined. Algo is something, alguien is someone, alguna manera is some way or somehow. Now, why is that worth noting? It means that for the first time in a long time, people that are making racially charged jokes or commentaries are actually using somewhat proper language of the culture they're joking or commentating about. Now, there are a lot of lazy ways that people make racially charged comments and jokes, referring to a common food item that a culture is known for, or even just speaking English in a dramatized fashion with an accent. For example, someone making a commentary about the African American community might talk like this or some shit. Or someone who wants to say something about the British might say bottled water, isn't it? Or there's the classic Asian accented English. Hello, are you still with me? But these are all pretty lazy takes. Sure, you do need to still know a little something about the culture. For example, to do an Asian accent, you do technically have to know, or at least internalize, that there's no distinct L sound in Chinese, Japanese, or Korean. But it's not exactly the same as actively knowing and using the language of the culture that you're talking about. Well, that's where this oalgo trend changes things. I can't think of another instance in which people who want to make fun of a culture are also actively using its language in a correct manner. Now, you might think that maybe Spanish speakers don't actually use the term oalgo. Maybe it was just something that was made up by racists or racist adjacent people to try to diminish the Hispanic culture. But no, if you have any Spanish-speaking friends or are around the Spanish-speaking culture at all, you know that oalgo is a real, authentic saying. It's a short form of the saying o algo así, which literally translates into English as or something like that, which is a fundamental human concept. I'm sure every language in the world has a way to say or something like that, commonly used when describing something that's difficult to describe or telling a story. Now, that reminds me, racists of old would use the phrase or something with a Latino accent to try and achieve the same effect. However, they seem to be evolving. I really do think it's a good thing. Racism, or at least people making commentary on other cultures, will exist for the rest of humanity. It's a fundamental part of the tribalistic experience of being a human. But doing it in a way like this, that's more culturally accurate and even borderline respectful, is a much better way to make racially charged jokes. And it bridges the gap between cultures a bit, even on a micro level, which right now we desperately need. What do you think? Is this a one-off? Or will we see a trend towards more of this respectful racism? Latinos, hay algunas frases ingleses que dicen cuando están hablando sobre estereotípicos de anglohablantes. We've all heard the 10,000 hour theory that suggests that you can only truly master something after 10,000 hours of practicing it. Well, in that same vein, how many words do you need to know in a certain language before you're allowed to make jokes and comments about the culture that speaks it? The popularization of oalgo might seem like a hateful fever that's going around the human consciousness, but I challenge you all to not be offended and look at it as a positive step in the right direction for a more multicultural and communicative future.